What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking Lightroom and how I took this photo to this. So grab yourself a nice hot cup of coffee and let's get into it. Okay, here we are on Lightroom, and the first thing I kind of want to do is establish the kind of mood that I'm going for. And since it was a gloomy day, kind of overcast, I want to go for that real dramatic and moody look and kind of mysterious because it also fits to the place itself. Chichen Itza is, to me, it's a mysterious place, so it fits the overall vibe. Now, what did I do? First thing I did was drop the exposure a bit. Then I raised the contrast, dropped the highlights, raised the shadows, pulled the whites up, and lowered the blacks. And this just kind of balances the photo and gives us a nice good starting point to work with when we start shaping the light and adding masks and everything. Now down here in the presence tab, I lowered the clarity and lowered the dehaze just to soften the image up a little bit. Then I raised the vibrance up a little bit and lowered the saturation. And that kind of adds to that moody, dramatic look. Now for the tone curve, all I really did was just draw a simple basic S curve, raise the black points up to fade the blacks, drop the shadows back down, raise the highlights, and lowered the white point. And this just gives it back some of the contrast that we lost while dropping the clarity and the dehaze. Then to the color mixer. First thing I did was shift the oranges more to the reds because I didn't really like how all this dirt right here in the foreground looks so yellowish. So I dropped that down quite a bit, lowered the saturation again, and lowered the luminance. And for the yellows, I also shifted them more towards the orange, again adding to the effect of drawing these more towards red and orange than yellow and green. Then I also dropped the saturation and raised the luminance just a little bit. The greens I also brought more towards the yellows and also lowered the saturation and raised the luminance a bit to kind of give it that separation from the dirt. Aquas I kind of just left alone, and the blues I just lowered the saturation quite a bit. Now for purple and magenta, I dropped these two, the saturation all the way down on both of them because I don't really have anything purple or magenta in the photo and I don't want those appearing anywhere. For the color grading, in the midtones and shadows, I kind of went in the teal direction, and the highlights, I brought some oranges into it to really give it that cinematic teal and orange feel. Lens correction, I have mine set up to automatically remove chromatic aberrations and enable profile corrections for the lens I was using. If I turn that off, you kind of see the distortion that was happening with the lens. But we're going to keep that on for now. And for the crop, I'm just going to add a standard 4x5 crop and straighten it out for Instagram. Drop it down to bring more of that foreground into the photo. Auto level it. But as you can see, the photo right now is looking nothing like the photo we have right here, the final version. So how do we fit in the missing pieces to make it look like this? That's where masking comes into play. So what you want to do is come up here to your masking section, grab a linear gradient, and a little tip for you guys, instead of just pulling up your gradients and kind of hoping that they're centered, there's an easier way to do it. Just grab your linear gradient, hold shift while you pull up, and that'll keep it centered. And we're just going to drag it up to right around here and then just drop the exposure some. And that's going to darken the foreground and really pull the viewer's eyes towards the center of the picture where our subject is. Then we're going to grab another mask. This time we're going to select sky. And as you can see, Lightroom did a pretty good job of grabbing the sky, but there is some red right around the edges of the structure, which we do not want because it indicates that that's going to be affected with the mask. And that's not what we want. We just want the sky right now. So what I'm going to do is click these three dots on our mask right here, intersect mask width, luminance range, and then I'm just going to click the sky. And now we can use this bar over here to refine our selection. Going to pull this further to add more of the sky. And right about there, that looks good. Now we have the sky selected, but none of the structure itself. So with the sky selected, we're going to go back down, and down in our effects tab right here, we're going to bring up the dehaze a bit to really start bringing back information in those clouds. Right about there looks good. Then we're going to add another mask, another linear gradient. Again, shift and pull down to right about there. And again, this is the same principle. We still have a little bit of red on our structure, which we do not want. So we're going to subtract, and let's try select subject and see if Lightroom is smart enough to find out that that's our subject right there. Yeah, it did a pretty good job. It got rid of most of the red right here, but we still have a little bit right here and right here. And to get rid of that, we're just going to hit subtract and use our brush tool and just paint over the area. Something like that. Okay, now that we got our sky selected, what we're going to do is go to the exposure, bring that down some more, right about there. That's starting to look good. Now we're going to grab another linear mask, draw it down from above again, but only to about right there, just so the top portion of our photo is a little bit darker. Now the last mask we're going to create is a radial gradient right around the center of our photo where the subject is. Just draw a nice big circle around it. And we're going to raise the exposure just a little bit on this one, just to really make the center of the photo pop. Okay, I'm starting to like how that's looking right now, but we still have the problem with all these people in the photo and a couple signs and posts in the background. You can get rid of these in Lightroom, definitely, but it's a little bit more tedious and complicated. So I'm just going to right click the photo down here, hit edit in Adobe Photoshop, and that's going to open Photoshop for me. Now that we're in Photoshop, there's a couple of ways you could do this. You can use the new AI features and just detect distractions and people and delete them out like that. But I'm just going to use the spot healing brush tool. You can find it over here in your toolbar, or you can just hit J. Now I'm going to right click and just increase the size of my brush till I got something I like. Right around there is nice, and just paint over the people. And voila, the magic of Photoshop. And we're just going to repeat that process for everything in the photo that's distracting us. There we go, that's looking good. Now I'm going to zoom in, start from the left-hand side, select my brush size again, make it super small, just the size of the poles that I'm trying to get rid of right now, and repeat the process. Just drag down, go further right, got another pole right here. And another tip, this works in Photoshop and Lightroom with the brushes. If you, for example, want to get rid of something straight, like this pole right here, just click up at the top once, hold shift, and click at the bottom again, and it'll draw a straight line down to the bottom. This should be our last sign that we have to get rid of. And yep, but there is still a little bit of artifacting right here from the people that we erased earlier. Get rid of that. And we should be good to go. Now you will notice that we still have these cables going around the structure from the fences that were put up. But honestly, if we zoom back out to fit the screen, especially on Instagram, on smaller iPhone screens or iPad screens, you're not going to be able to see that. So I'm just going to leave that there because that's going to be too tedious for me. I don't have the patience. If you do have the patience, go in, fix it all, get rid of it. That's great. Do it. Okay, that's looking good now. Now all we got to do is hit Command S to save the photo. As soon as it's done saving down here, we can close Photoshop. And as soon as we close Photoshop, it's going to bring that edited photo right back down here in our film strip. And this is where you could add more edits if you wanted to. I'm not going to add anything though. I'm happy with how this is looking. I'm just going to export it and upload it to Instagram. There you go, just a quick video today on how I edited this photo. I hope you learned something. If you did, hit the like button, comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.